Now, Pavoratii was a good friend.
Hello. Welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavoratii, and I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel is for entertainment purposes. These are my opinions. I'm not here to slander anyone, so let's get started. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the recent hearing on change of venue. And I'm going to point out one of the most interesting things that I can possibly point out. For those of you who may be aware that I did send a very late message to Ann Taylor through a video the other night. And it was probably too late for her to get, but I don't think so. I think she got it. Now, unfortunately, the format of the trial did not allow her to do what I suggested that she did. And it would have been completely off-putting if she would have tried to do it based on the format, and she probably would have gotten in trouble. So, with that being said, I asked for something that wasn't possible. But there are some really key takeaways in this thing. But the first thing I've got to mention is the message that was clearly sent out to Pavoratii by Ann Taylor in this trial, in this hearing, excuse me. And if y'all watched all 7 hours of it, I'm sure you would have noticed it. But if you didn't, that's okay. That's why you got me to surmise the 7-hour trial. But I'm going to start with the message she sent directly to Pavoratii. And I heard the message loud and clear, and I will keep up the good fight. Now, Pavaratii's not even on Facebook or Twitter or any other social media. I do my YouTube videos. So, it was interesting when during the slide presentation, just to give you a little background on where this took place. All right, so she's got Dr. Edelman on the stand. Dr. Edelman, while he's on the stand, apparently his eyes aren't that good, so he has paper copies of a PowerPoint presentation that he had prepared. And he had paper copies because his eyes wouldn't allow him to see the PowerPoint, so he had to put on his reading glasses and look at the PowerPoint, or maybe he had contacts in. I don't remember him putting on reading glasses. But he had to have copies of his PowerPoint slides in front of him at the witness stand so he could discuss what was on the screen. Because of that, Ann Taylor actually worked the laptop for the PowerPoint presentation for Dr. Edelman. So she has full control of this laptop and what goes on the screen, how long it's on the screen, and everything in that manner. Well, during the PowerPoint presentation, there came a section on social media. And they specifically went to Facebook to show some of the Facebook groups that were created from this case. And as she's scrolling through there, the message was read loud and clear because she clearly was letting people know, including myself, that she is absolutely listening to Pavoratii and wants that out there front and center. Because although Pavaratii's not on Facebook, apparently my videos are. Apparently people will get them and repost them on Facebook somehow. I didn't even know they did that. So I'm going to show you a clip from this portion of it where she is showing clearly me. And when you think about all the personalities that's out there and all the videos and all of the content, the fact that in this little short clip she shows 3 prominent videos for me, I'm taking it as a direct message to me. Take it how you like. But I can also say this, as she's doing this, the judge gets mad. He stops the entire hearing to get it off the screen because he doesn't want anybody to see it. And then they had to take about an hour recess as they discussed off camera what Ann Taylor had just done. So it was a significant move on her part, and I appreciate it. And thank you, Ann. We will keep up the good fight. Message heard loud and clear. Take a listen.
So from my experience, you have a lot of information disseminated through informal communication channels and through social media in high-profile cases.
Did you find that in this case?
I did. There was quite a bit.
Now remember, Ann Taylor is working the computer. So this little strip of social media from Facebook She's controlling the flow on it.
What are we seeing on this slide?
So this is just an example. I went on Facebook and just did one search, which was just the search term was Moscow murders to see what would come up. And this is what we would call a results page, essentially. So if you hit play, you can see the extent of content that's out there from groups that are just talking about this case and sharing information and discussing what they think happened. And videos and posts, which may include anything from influencers and podcasters to sharing traditional news stories.
And there you have it, folks. You see that right there? That's the little movie that I made called Pavoratii's Moscow Murders. And they prominently highlighted, I don't know how it gets on Facebook. I guess this gentleman here reposted it. But of all the videos and all the social media that they could show on here, they choose to show this. It's a message. That was a pretty good video too, by the way. If y'all haven't seen it, go back in my queue and watch that one.
Through local newspapers or television stories, but there's quite a bit. Again, this is just one search.
Just one search. Now look at Ann. She's scrolling through here. She's wanting to show some of this stuff. Oh my goodness! And there it is again. There's my Sunday night special, the AB Connection. That was a really good video. If you haven't seen that one, you could go back and watch it.
You did a screen capture so that you could show the results from one search term.
Yes.
Look how
this is me just scrolling through the search engine results page from that one search term.
Yep. Look how she's
and what you're seeing
going through it kind of quick.
And then if you click on the tabs like posts or groups, you would see other categories. What's remarkable is the number of groups that have been created discussing this case. Some of them local, some of them national, with, some of them have hundreds or thousands of members, others have hundreds of thousands of members. So this case has captured the public's attention.
We'll just keep scrolling for a minute. I think this goes on a little bit.
Sure, these are all groups that you're looking at right now. So they're just Facebook groups that have been created talking about this.
Oh, look where she stops. Who's the man at the top of the screen? Well, it's old Pavoratii again. So, I'm telling you, folks, this was done for a reason.
These all popped up from that one search term.
Now watch the judge.
I don't think we need to advertise all these, honestly.
Okay.
We've been trying to protect from this kind of stuff.
I'm
I'm aware of it. I don't look at it. I don't read it. We know it's there.
May we take a brief break, Your Honor?
Sure. Off the record.
Off the record. Yep, that was them closing that hearing down for about an hour. I wonder what they were discussing. Now, on a serious note, the hearing itself, I mean, it could have been much better. She brought 4 witnesses to testify, and the prosecution didn't bring any witnesses. The prosecution sat quiet, and they only cross-examined, I believe, they cross-examined 2 of the witnesses that was brought by the defense. The first witness who testified on TrueScope, that was compiling all the data on the media coverage. The second witness, that was a professor in psychology. They cross-examined her, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. The third witness was Dr. Edelman. They didn't cross-examine Dr. Edelman. The fourth witness was another academic that was brought on just to add more credibility to Dr. Edelman's testimony as if he needed it. And they didn't cross-examine her either. In fact, her entire testimony was mainly her credentials. And her testimony consisted of, he did a good survey. But I believe this trial or this hearing would have been much more effective if they had to bring TrueScope, because he's the one that did the media mining, so he had all the media data. But him and Dr. Edelman, I believe, would have sufficed. The last witness, again, just was trying to lend credibility to the survey that was completed by Dr. Edelman. I don't believe he needed any additional help in his credibility by the prosecution not cross-examining him at all. I think that spoke volumes on his credibility. But the second witness that they brought, okay, folks, this is what is kind of scary in a trial like this, because I can tell you right now, the prosecution, they're sharp. This Miss Beatty, she is sharp. So when it comes to the trial itself, if Miss Beatty is going to do the cross on the witnesses, they better be prepped and ready, because this second witness that the defense brought was a great example of a terrible witness. Okay, terrible. And if you add two things to an equation, a terrible witness and a sharp prosecutor on cross-examination, you've got a recipe for disaster. Because the second witness was, again, an academic, and her whole, I really don't know what kind of role she was expecting to play in this hearing. She was trying to lend credibility to the psychology of the matter. The psychology of the matter doesn't, go a long way to correlate to laws. So whether the psychology is true or not, the laws contradict psychology in many ways. But the main thing that I think was a disaster was the fact that she was a terrible witness. She may have had credibility and she may have lent some information as far as the psychology of the matter goes. But when it comes to cross-examination, everything that she said was, I believe, totally destroyed just simply by the prosecutor being sharp. I'm going to show you just a clip of the prosecutor cross-examining this witness, and let me explain what I mean by this. When a witness is being questioned under cross-examination by the prosecution, they have to keep their answers very short and very concise. If they don't, then they open up a door for more questions, and those questions can then be tied to other things that they should have never even been questioned on. One of the things that she answers when asked questions by Miss Beatty is she references the survey that's done by Dr. Edelman. The second that she did that opened the door for Miss Beatty to attack her on information from Dr. Edelman's survey that she was certainly not prepared to be attacked on. So from that point on, her answers just became a babbling mess, and it took everything that she testified on and made it seem not credible at all. And that's what a good prosecutor can do to a bad witness. Let me give you a quick snippet of it so you understand what it is I'm talking about.
Okay.
Your Honor. In any jurisdiction where there's been a tremendous amount of pretrial publicity, at least some of these biases would apply to a prospective jury pool, correct? Yeah. And the best thing, if I'm understanding your testimony correctly, for this trial would be to have a jury pool with the largest percentage of jurors who hadn't formed an opinion on this case already. Would that be fair to say?
I can't speak to percentages. You need somehow to find enough people to serve on the jury who have not been exposed. Now, this is a high-profile case, so we know the exposure is all over the state, and of course, this is part of it. But if you can have less exposure, you have less bias.
potential. In a case like this, where there's been so much exposure across all counties, are there unique challenges in selecting a jury that would apply anywhere?
So, well, I mentioned some unique things about Latah County and emotional investment in the community, concern for community members, and, having felt that fear and wanting, the defendant to be guilty so that they could resolve the fear and anger. So, there are all those emotional and social connections. And of course, Dr. Edelman's report, which will come up later, shows that a lot of people who live in Latah County are connected in some way to the university or the police involved in the case. So they actually, know people or they lived in Latah County. And so those kinds of things make, because it's such a small community, make Latah a unique experience.
And so you've reviewed Dr. Edelman's survey.
I have.
So does it sound correct that 75% of folks in Latah County are not affiliated with the university?
I don't recall his percentages.
Okay.
So offhand, I'd have to see the report, which I could look at if you'd like.
Okay. And I should be more precise. I believe the question was, are you or a family member, a student or employee at the University of Idaho in Moscow? And the percentage of folks who responded no was 75%. Does that sound right?
I couldn't tell you without seeing it. Sorry, I don't remember.
Would it surprise you to find out that 60% of Latah County residents who were surveyed reported that they did not feel higher levels of stress or anxiety during the hunt for the killer in this case?
I don't know. I don't know what percentage I would have estimated. I just would have estimated it to be higher in Latah.
Okay. So is one strategy that the court could use in any jurisdiction, whether the trial stays in Latah County or moves to Ada County, would bringing in a larger jury pool alleviate some of these concerns across any jurisdiction?
Well, if we're talking about Latah County, a lot of the things that I mentioned were not in the survey. So, there are emotions I mentioned that weren't assessed during the survey, impressions of Mr. Kohberger that weren't in the survey. So it could be that.
See what Ms. Beatty did to her right there? Because she brought up in her answer that she referenced something in Edelman's survey, Beatty then was able to take percentages from Edelman's survey and reverse the percentages. For example, she said because 25% of people in the Latah County survey was related to people who were, worked at the university, well, then because she opened the door by saying she was familiar with Edelman's survey and referenced statistics from it, she then opened the door to say, do you realize 75% of people that were surveyed in Latah did not have family members that were related to people at the college? And then now she's having to answer questions she should have never had to answer, and she's doing a very poor job of answering them. And she continued to do that throughout her cross-examination and annihilated that witness. So a good witness is paramount, and a bad witness is damaging. So not a good witness there. And we're going to dig a little deeper because Ann Taylor did do a good job in her closing statements trying to grasp at, Judge, the first thing you need to rule on is the change of venue. But the second thing you need to rule on is not to just take the easy route and go to Nez Perce. She knows that's what the move is to move to Nez Perce. And little things were thrown up all throughout this hearing that alluded to Nez Perce, such as the airport in Lewiston, by the prosecution. So Ann Taylor made a last-ditch effort in her closing arguments to try to negate the move to Nez Perce. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. The judge is absolutely going to rule change of venue, move to Nez Perce. Without a doubt, folks. Now, I'm the only one that's saying it. I don't see how people can't see it. But here's those closing arguments for you to hear for yourself.
Thank you, Judge. Governor, as I sat and listened to Ms. Beatty talking about all of the prejudicial coverage and how there's a problem in other counties as well as Latah County, it really struck me that Everybody knows how prejudicial this media coverage is. Everybody knows that. And that's really the question the court has to answer today. Has there been prejudicial media coverage that there's a reasonable likelihood that it impacts the impartiality of the jury, that it impacts Mr. Kohberger from getting a fair trial? Don't think about county's numbers. Don't think about Canyon County's numbers, and don't think about Bannock County's numbers. Think about Latah County's numbers. Your first question is, do you grant the motion to change venue to protect his constitutional rights? Don't get mixed up in thinking, well, Ada County's numbers aren't so great either. Maybe Canyon County's numbers aren't so great either. You have to make this decision based on what's going to happen in Latah County. You know the jurors have been exposed to prejudicial media. You know that there's been an impact on it. You know that that's going to be really hard to ferret out in a jury selection moment. And if you know all that, you have to change venue. You can't just say, well, it's bad in Ada County too, so I won't change venue here. The question for the court is, in the county in which Mr. Kohberger is charged, can you seat a fair and impartial jury? And that answer is no, you cannot. The court then has to decide, what do we do? But answer the first question first. Answer the first question first. And don't be tempted to say, well, maybe we could go to Kootenai County, maybe we could go to Nez Perce County. We don't have any surveys on them. We don't have any information on them, except we know that Dr. Edelman pulled a couple hundred stories from the Lewiston Tribune and looking at the local media coverage because of the closeness of Moscow and Lewiston. And except that we know that people in Lewiston have the same nightly news as those in Moscow. And by the way, so does Kootenai County. KXLY, that broadcasts all the stories on their nightly news, that happens at my house, it happens at Mr. Thompson's house, and it happens to somebody who's from Lewiston too. That's the same news. The difference is the newspapers, and the difference is the community connection and what that means in this case.
So while that was a valiant effort by Ann Taylor to focus the judge's attention, tell him, number one, to rule on the first thing, which is a change of venue, which he will. He has to, because this would be overturned on appeal if he doesn't rule for change of venue in this case. But then she made a valiant effort to direct his attention not to move to, she mentioned Kootenai, but specifically Nez Perce and Lewiston, because that is what the prosecution all throughout this hearing, they made the point when on their cross-examination of the witnesses, they made their point that every county in the whole state of Idaho is going to have similar numbers of media saturation, and therefore any county that this thing is moved to is going to be equal, if not maybe a slightly better or slightly worse than Latah County as far as media coverage. So their arguments were all focused on the fact that any county that you move it to is going to be an improvement. But then, of course, they focused in on convenience. The witnesses not having to travel as far. The family members not having to travel as far. She even mentioned the Lewiston Airport and its convenience. So while it was a valiant effort at the end, it's still going to fall short. This thing's going to be held where it was always going to be held, and that's in the brand new county courthouse in Lewiston, and it's the Nez Perce County Courthouse. They built it for the trial, and that's where this is going to be moved. Nobody else has backed me up on this or followed me on this. It's amazing to me. But that's why the judge didn't just rule out in the case, oh, okay, change of venue, Nez Perce. Because I've already put it out there, and I've put it out there in a straightforward manner that's what this thing was meant to do in the beginning. So that's been their plan all along. So the judge isn't going to rule right there in court on this change of venue. He's going to wait and act like he really considered it. You're not considering nothing, John Judge. You know where this thing's going. It's going to Nez Perce County Courthouse, where they've built a massive new courthouse just for this case. They didn't start bidding on it until February of last year. They've almost got it built, and it's scheduled to be completed spring of 2025, right before this trial happens. they'll probably have a couple of months once it's completed to work out the technical bugs so that everything goes smooth at trial. Insane. That is a fact. That's what's going to happen. So we'll wait around for the ruling on that. But it was a very good job by the defense, other than, the couple of the witnesses that they called, and I've already mentioned, that didn't do them any justice in this thing. But so what I'm going to do is we'll wait around for the official ruling, and then once that official ruling's out, I'm going to put it in everybody's faces that I told them that was going to happen. But I'm also going to complete that other video in my series of Part 3 bonus, the IGG. And then once that one's completed, then I'm going to dive back into who really committed this thing, and we're going to hit that hard. And Ann Taylor, thank you for the shout out there to let me know that I'm in the right direction and doing the right thing, because I will double, triple down on this bad boy now that you did that. Thank you. So, folks, please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, your criticisms, old Pavoratii. Post your thoughts. I like to hear everything that you have to say. And until next time, let's see here. Pavaratii's out.